Okay, so don't like the new Mystique. I think I've already established that in my reviews. And they do a bit of a weird thing. They make Charles and Mystique childhood friends, and they even try and say that Charles was the one that got Mystique to, join Magneto, which we have in, the first three movies. Which I think is crazy. That movie loves doing stuff like that in this. Like, they'll say, oh yeah, this character said this, and that's why this happened. Like, Mystique gives Magneto his name, gives Charles his name. The unimportant character that's only in X-Men Apocalypse after this movie, and then never shows up again. Well, maybe she shows up in Dark Phoenix, but I don't think she does, since she's just a normal human. Is the one that gives Charles the idea to call them the X-Men. It's crazy. And I love how in X-Men Days of Future Past, if I remember it correctly, Mystique already hates Magneto. Yet this movie was setting up her teaming up with Magneto in the future. So I guess that was, pointless. They also try and set up this whole new mutant team with Magneto that they don't even use in even one movie. The movie ends with Magneto teaming up with Emma Frost, Azazel, Riptide, and Angel. We will not see any of those characters ever again besides Magneto. So it was literally a pointless ending. The most out-of-pocket thing in this movie, though, is when Kevin Bacon's character says, I'm sorry for the camps, Magneto, and he's referring to concentration camps. It's just such a weird line. There are two of my favorite lines come from Magneto, because the actor that plays Magneto is probably, the only recast that I love. The guy that plays Charles Xavier in this movie is fine, but nowhere near as good as Patrick Stewart. But this version of Magneto is fantastic. Might even be better than Ian McKellen's. Anyway, he has two really good lines I really like, and it's my favorite scene in the movie, the Frankenstein monster line, where he kills two Nazis and the bartender. And then later, when he refers to that exact scene, where Magneto says they're just men following orders. And he says, I've been at the mercy of men following orders for the rest of my life. For all of my life. Never again. I really like that line. Because it's referring to that scene where the Nazis said they were just following orders. And I love how unimportant Riptide was in this movie that, one, not even on the cover. Two, the dude got knocked out when he's a mutant by being thrown into a boat for the rest of the final fight of the movie. They really made me think he was finally going to do something, and he did not. It was like, I'm pretty sure he didn't even talk during the movie, too. See, like, no Riptide, but there is Emma Frost. Even though they kicked her out of the movie after Magneto basically got rid of her powers. They never explain exactly what he did. He just somehow knows that she can't use her powers, and if he taps her, done. They don't explain it exactly, though. He says if he taps her, done. Not exactly that line, but you know what I mean. But that could mean two things. One, she would go back to her human form. Or two, that she would shatter and die. I don't think Charles would tap her, so I don't know why he would say that to Charles. So I'm going to go with, she can still use her diamond form, but if someone taps her, she'll just go back to her human form. So she's basically useless now, besides, being a telepath. But she can still look cool, I guess. Beast looks awful in this movie, and so does Mystique. I'm glad they make her look better in X-Men Days of Future Past, but she's still not a better character. They do the same with Beast. You can't tell me that looks good. You can't. Especially for a design for Beast. Yeah, Havoc is in this movie, but they took so long to make another movie that we don't get him in a full-fledged movie where he knows how to use his powers. He also loses his thing during the final battle, so he becomes kind of useless. Because he's just like his brother Cyclops. He can't control his power fully unless he has something to control it. So he loses his thing by Angel, and then he's just useless for the rest of the thing. Final battle was decently cool, but they mostly just got rid of most of the X-Men. They're like, oh, here's Banshee for a few seconds. Oh, there's Banshee on the beach now because someone took out his wingspan. Oh, here's Angel. Someone took out her wings. There's Havoc. Angel took out the thing that makes him use his powers. And Azazel gets his ass kicked by Beast by a distraction from Mystique. I don't understand how they didn't know there was a shapeshifter on their team. They seem to know everything else. Emma Frost getting kicked out of the movie sucked too. Though she was mostly just sexualized in this movie. There's also 2 sexist jokes in this movie, and one's near the end of the movie. So I guess that's a good way to get people to remember your movie. I get it's set back in the 1980s or some shit, but that's no excuse to do this. I think it's actually the 1960s. Yeah, it actually is 1963. It says 20 years later when we first see Magneto. So the 60s. So there's still a lot wrong with the world back then, and there still is today. But way more back then than there is now. And one of the last lines in the movie, it's not the exact last line, but it's the last scene we see with the girl after her memory gets wiped, and then right after that, all we see is Magneto forming his team that never happens. So it's really the thing you would remember the most, since that team never happened. And that line is her, getting her memory wiped by Charles. It's not like they're, don't realize it. They even say that he can do that. Because they slowly realize that Charles probably erased her memory. And then she was like, well, all I can remember is bits of sunlight, trees, and a kiss. And then they go, see, this is why we shouldn't have a woman on the CIA. That was the line they put in this movie near the end of the movie. Haha, funny. It's old. It's in the past. That means it's okay. Come on. It was just a lame thing to put in the movie. Oh, and I almost forgot one of my biggest problems with this movie. The movie kills an unkillable mutant. You heard me right. That's like his only power. It's not Wolverine or Deadpool where they can heal super fast, but they can die very certain ways. Deadpool killed Wolverine with this sword in the comics that gets rid of Regen. Thanos took away his healing power that he gave to him in the comics and killed him. But that was only because Death was already dead, I think. I don't remember the exact plot, but I'm not going to talk about that since that's not important. But there has been times when mutants that seem to not be able to die have been killed in the comics. There have been characters that can't seem to die that have been killed in the comics, like the Hulk. It's not a new thing. But Darwin's whole thing is that he literally can't die. Adapt to survive is his power. He can adapt to anything. He literally cannot die. So this movie puts a little ball of energy in his mouth from Havoc and kills him off. They also have a bit of a racist scene with him. And he's the only black character in this movie. Only main one, too. Where when Kevin Bacon's character is going on his little rant, he says enslaved, and then he looks right at Darwin. Can't tell me that's not racist. And that's the only black character in the movie. He didn't even make it on the cover either. I just realized that. It's probably why I didn't think to talk about him, because I always talk on people that are on the cover unless I remember how ridiculous they were. I only remembered Riptide because all the dude did was show up in suits and then do nothing. Dress all fancy and do absolutely nothing in the movie. Oh, I bet that's Darwin. I'm gonna read that later. I still think that's so stupid. How can you kill an unkillable mutant? We only see his power twice in this movie. Well, we see his power 3 times to be exact, but he uses the same thing the third time, which I still think is pretty dumb. He puts his head in a fish tank to show them that he adapts to anything, so he grows gills if he would be in water. And then the second time, someone's trying to hit him with a wood, so he gains body armor. And then later when Havoc decides to use his powers, he gains body armor again to protect Angel. I still think that scene was really dumb. I think they might have been able to at least injure Kevin Bacon if, Darwin simply would have said, hey, when I say this word, will you attack? But no, he screams as loud as he can, Alex, now! So, Kevin Bacon knows Alex is about to attack him, and then he kills Darwin. I still think it's pretty stupid. Yeah, he killed Darwin for, having someone attack him. And for Darwin trying to punch him, I guess. But he didn't kill Havoc. Didn't even try to. It just says, adapt to this. Kills Darwin, and then leaves. What about Havoc, who tried to attack you too? Doesn't make sense to me. I'm pretty sure at least 3 of these characters, I think Azazel and Emma Frost, I don't remember if it was a deleted scene or not, were confirmed dead in X-Men Days of Future Past. So it really wasn't that important. And there's several scenes where characters won't be on scene and then they'll show up. Azazel and Riptide are standing there during Magneto's speech, but Angel isn't, and then she's there a few seconds later. Emma Frost and Kevin Bacon's character are running to get onto the submarine because Magneto's trying to tear up their boat. Riptide is not with them. But then once they get on the submarine, Riptide is. And the funniest one that I think is when Darwin, protects Angel. Azazel randomly has his arm out and he's just standing there for like a good 6 seconds, and then he grabs Angel. They were clearly had it in the script that he had to grab her at a certain time, and I guess the actor just decided to have his arm out to wait until his cue was there to grab her. Once you see that, I guarantee you won't be able to unsee it when you watch the movie. But yeah, I guess that's about it for this movie. There really isn't that much to talk about. Oh, actually, there is one more thing. Mystique and Charles Xavier grow up together. So I looked it up, and Charles Xavier is 30 in this movie. Well, since, him and Mystique grew up together, that would make her 32. Charles refers to Havoc, Banshee, and I think Mystique as kids. Though I'm pretty sure it's just supposed to be Banshee and Havoc since they're the ones sitting on a bench. But guess one of the romances in this movie? It's Mystique and Beast. Which is a pretty weird age gap. I'm not going to say it's pedophilia since I couldn't find anything about Beast's age in this movie. The closest thing we get is that he graduated when he was 15. But I don't think he's 15 in this movie. Definitely doesn't look it. It's probably 20 or 18 or something, but that would still make the age gap kind of weird. And since they don't do anything with the love triangle that I remember anyway, nothing really happens in X-Men Days of Futures Past. Nothing really happens in Apocalypse that I remember about Beast and Mystique dating. So really, what was the point of setting up this weird-ass romance? Is it because they're both blue? Like, I really don't see any chemistry at all. Don't really see any reason to put this romance in the movie. It's just dumb. They really should have confirmed the character's age, though, since they referred to them as kids later. It's not like Charles is old in this movie. He's only 30 in this movie. So there's not really a reason to, refer to Banshee and them as kids, unless they are pretty young. And since Beast, I don't know, maybe Beast is a little bit older since he wasn't exactly recruited on the team with them. He was already there, working for the CIA. So maybe he's in his mid-20s. Since I don't even think he was in that scene either, so maybe. Pretty sure it was just Mystique and the other two. But yeah, I guess that's about it. I still think that romance is stupid regardless if both their ages are fine.